How's it going, you lovely bunch of bakers? Welcome back to another video. Today I'll show you to make a super soft millet porridge bread. So let's get in the kitchen and see how it's done. Recently I published a video detailing the use of porridge in bread making. It is a great method for changing the texture, flavor and improving the keeping quality of bread. Pretty much any seed, grain, pulse or legume could be used in the preparation for porridge in bread making. I chose to use millet in this recipe because I like the subtle sweetness it brings and I also like its bright yellow color. I also added fennel seeds into the mix. They add a very unique flavor and aroma. You can replace the millet in this recipe with any other type of grain, seed, legume or pulse. And of course you can leave out the fennel seed if you're not a fan. And you can do all of that without adjusting anything else in the recipe. If you want to find out more details about porridge and bread making, head over to the Principles of Baking playlist and watch the full video. But for now, let me show you how this millet bread is made, starting with the ingredients. We'll need some white bread flour, whole wheat flour, semolina, whole grain rye flour, yeast, salt, water, olive oil, millet and fennel seed. And just to clarify, millet is a seed, and so is my other favorite carbohydrate, buckwheat. But sometimes I do call them grains. I always think of seeds as something that you can eat raw. Anyhow, with all the ingredients out the way, let's look at the equipment that we'll use today. We'll need a large bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, a pan for cooking the millet porridge. For the final proof, I'll use my round banneton. It measures about 20 centimeters or 8 inches wide. If you don't have a basket, use a bowl lined with a clean cloth. And if you don't have a round basket, you could use an oblong shaped one. For baking, I'll use my Lodge cast iron combo cooker. A cast iron pot with a lid like this one is the best tool for the home baker. The conditions inside this pot during baking are very similar to the conditions on the inside of a commercial bread oven. The solid iron walls will bake the bread evenly on all sides, and the lid will prevent the steam from escaping. But if you don't own a pot like this, don't worry, you can still bake this bread. A water spray bottle is pretty much the next best thing that you could use. It is inexpensive and it's convenient. In fact, I use my combo cooker and the spray bottle in the same recipe quite often. Okay, let's begin the process. It all starts with making the porridge. In a small pan, combine the millet, the fennel seed, the water and a pinch of salt, taken from the total salt amount of the recipe. Place the pot on high heat, let the water come up to a boil, then turn the heat down low, cover the pot with the lid and leave it to simmer for 15 to 17 minutes. Once all the water has been fully absorbed, it should be cooked. And this is what it will look like. It's kinda sticky, but that's normal. The reason why I added the fennel seeds to the porridge is to get more flavor out of them. And you can definitely modify your porridge with other ingredients to enhance it. Okay, cover the porridge up and leave it to cool down completely. You can place it in the fridge to cool it down sooner. Once it's at the right temperature, we can move on to making our dough. My kitchen is pretty warm, at around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'll use slightly cooler water at around 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I will be cold fermenting this dough, but you can certainly do room temperature bulk fermentation. At room temperature, bulk fermentation will take around 2 to 2.5 hours. But let's get back to mixing the dough. In a large bowl, combine the water, yeast, salt, semolina, whole wheat flour, whole grain rye flour, the cooled down porridge, and the olive oil. Grab a whisk or a spatula and give everything a good mix. Finally, add the white bread flour, grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. I'm aiming for a final dough temperature of around 24 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough turns out warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. But if you're cold fermenting it like I am, it's not going to make a huge difference, especially if it's only a couple of degrees. Okay, once your dough is fully mixed, place it in a clean bowl and take its temperature. And my one turned out just about right. Now we'll cover the dough up and pop it in the fridge to cool down for 1 hour. Normally I only chill my dough for 30 minutes before giving it a fold. I decided to give it more time on this occasion, to give all the ingredients a chance to absorb the water. 1 hour later, remove the dough from the fridge, dust it with flour, pop it out on the table with the smooth side down, dust it with more flour if it feels sticky, and then give it a fold. Flatten the dough, then fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle, the reach point where it started, then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and that's the fold done. Place the dough back into the bowl, leave it to cold ferment in the fridge for 18 to 24 hours. If you are doing a room temperature bulk fermentation, also give the dough a fold halfway through at the 1 hour mark. Okay, it's the next day, my dough has puffed up beautifully, it's ready to be shaped. The final shaping is pretty much identical to the fold that we just performed. Dust dough with flour, pop it out on the table with the smooth side down, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until the reach point where it started. Then flip it smooth side up again and tighten it against the table. Next we are going to do something slightly unusual. First, you want to dust the dough generously with flour on all sides. Make sure you get the bottom too. Once it's all floured up, place it in a bread basket. But unlike most other times, we'll place it in a basket with the smooth side pointing up and the seam pointing down. You may have noticed that I didn't mention any tools for scoring this bread when I was listing the equipment earlier. And that is because we are not scoring this bread before baking. Instead, we'll proof it the wrong way up. And then, when we invert it in the pan, it will open up and score itself as it bakes, giving the loaf a unique and abstract design. Right, once the loaf is all tucked in, cover it up and leave the final proof, which will take around 2 hours. If you did the room temperature bulk fermentation, it may take just an hour to an hour and a half. During the final hour of fermentation, preheat the oven to 250 degrees Celsius, 480 Fahrenheit, fan on, and also preheat your baking vessel. Once the dough looks nice and puffy, it's ready for the oven. And here I will show you a trick for releasing the dough from the bowl without distorting it. Because this banneton didn't have a cloth inside it, the dough is a little bit stuck. So what you want to do is pick up the bread basket, tilt it, and then slowly rotate it. As you turn the basket and let the dough hang down, it will release itself from it. And here's another trick for preserving that nice round shape. Instead of flipping the basket over the pan, first place some baking paper onto the loaf, then gently flip it over whilst holding it with your hand. These two simple steps will pretty much guarantee that you don't mess up the shape of your loaf. And because we don't have to score this loaf, we run out of chances to mess this up. So from here, this bake is pretty much foolproof. So let's get this bad boy in the oven. Get your oven mitts on, grab the baking vessel from the oven, place it somewhere where you're not going to burn anything, remove the lid, place it on the side, and then carefully place the loaf into the pan. If you have a water spray bottle, spray the loaf down. A little bit of extra steam goes a long way. Now cover this bad boy up and pop it in the oven. As soon as you close the oven door, turn the temperature down to 220 degrees Celsius or 430 Fahrenheit. The initial part of the bake with the lid on will take 30 minutes. Once the time is up, remove it from the oven, take the lid off and place the bread back into the oven for another 10-15 minutes of baking. And once you are happy with the color of the crust, it's ready. And this one's definitely ready. It turned out magnificent. Just look at it, it's beautiful. That rich, dark, golden brown color and all those random cracks on the surface. It turned out to be a very unique looking bread and also a very unique tasting bread. The super crispy crust was crackling as it was cooling down on the counter, and the aroma of fennel seed filled the kitchen. This loaf has a very soft interior, contrasting the crispy crust, and the flavor is subtle and unique. The whole wheat flour, the whole grain rye flour, the semolina, the millet and the fennel seeds all work together without any one of them being overpowering. If you're not a fan of fennel seed, you could use caraway seed instead. And different flours could be mixed and match also. This type of bake is quite forgiving, so you could experiment with it, make it yours. Porridge is not only good for improving the flavor and texture of bread, it's also good for improving the keeping quality of it. This slice was taken out of the loaf around 5 days after baking, and it is still nice and soft, all thanks to the cooked millet holding onto the water. But that'll be it for today. Don't forget to check out all the other playlists on my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.